Hello again. I spoke yesterday about the disturbance outside a school in the Surrey town of Ashford when a black teenage girl was alleged to have been assaulted. Following this incident, a group of over 100 black militants arrived from London and staged a protest outside the school. Among these people were a number wearing paramilitary clothing, looking a bit like Black Panthers. They were members of the Forever Family Force, which in their own words organises patrols. Although they were behaving illegally, the police who were present took no action. In the 1930s, Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists devised uniforms, the ones which saw them being described informally as the black shirts. People found the presence of a uniformed political force on the streets of England worrying at that time. It was a little too reminiscent of Mussolini's fascists and Hitler's brown shirts. Because of this, in 1936, the government of the day passed the Public Order Act, which is still in force. I give a link to it on the government website in the description to this video. It says that any person who in any public place or at any public meeting wears uniform signifying his association with any political organisation or with the promotion of any political object shall be guilty of an offence. I hope that this is clear. Forever Family, I give a link to the website of theirs in the description to this video. They say on this website, and I quote, "We are Forever Family, united in the battle against racism, inequality and injustice." It is then a political organisation. They talk of mobilising, and there's mention of personal protection and so on. And as far as I'm able to apprehend, the Forever Family Force is their action group. It has its own symbol, which is both attached to the black uniforms worn and also may be seen on a banner which they carry. Have a look at the thumbnail to this video and decide for yourself if these look like uniformed men wearing a uniform which signifies some political object, for example, opposition to racism or something of that sort. I am not at all keen on militias or uniformed forces, and even if I were, they are still absolutely illegal in this country. This is why no right-wing group has ever tried to devise a uniform or anything which could be taken for one, because the police would be down on them at once, and quite right too. When these characters turned up outside the school in Ashford, though, the other day, some wearing combat gear and quite obviously being a uniformed group, what do you suppose was the reaction of the police? Well, we don't need to try and imagine it, because Chief Inspector Dallas McDermott of the Surrey Police spoke to newspaper reporters and gave his views on the people who turned up outside the school to stage a demonstration. He said, "It was all very peaceful, well organised, and we had no issues there." I give a link to the newspaper that reports this as well. We had no issues there. Presumably that means he saw nobody breaking the law, because it was very well organised. It was indeed well organised, because uniformed members of a political group, the Forever Family Force, were acting as marshals. It seems that the Surrey police are not familiar with the 1936 Public Order Act, or they might have thought about arresting those young men in combat clothing. The suspicion I have is that the police at the scene were ordered to go easy on the crowds of black people turning up from places like Lewisham and not do anything to annoy them, even if that meant letting them break the law. Why do I say this? Because they ignored a flagrant breach of the law. Let us conduct a little thought experiment. After the business at that school, feelings were running high, as you can imagine. Perhaps you might not inaptly describe the atmosphere there as febrile. What do you suppose would have been the reaction of the police if a group of white people belonging to a group such as the British National Party or English Defence League had turned up outside that school wearing illegal uniforms of that kind and calling themselves the such and such force? Does anybody seriously think that the police would tolerate white people dressed up in paramilitary uniforms milling around outside that school at such a sensitive time? Increasingly, we seem to be drifting into a situation where the police will allow black people to behave in a way which, were they white, would result in immediate arrest.